Okay, now we'll move on to program number 2 in Adrian Jansen's book, which is the liquid crystal display, and it's going to look like this. We've got a heading LCD demo, a label with LCD demo on it. These are labels, each of the rectangles that you can see here. We've got a quit button, and then the buttons which will control which digit is going to be displayed on the LCD. And I think you're all familiar with how this format is used when displaying LCD digits. So let's go over to Visual Studio, and I've still got my previous project open, so I'm just going to go File, New, and we're selecting a new project. Again, check that you have Visual Basic. We want a Visual Basic Forms application, and we're going to change the name to LCD Demo. And okay, save the change. That was my previous one. I'll just say yes to that. Okay, so now we have our form here. Now, in the previous video, I mentioned how you could place labels or controls onto forms. We can drag and drop, or we can double click. Let me just double click to put a label on there. It generally will position it up into the top left hand corner. Now you know that we need to have 7 labels here to make up the digits, to make up the rectangles of the digit, but rather than put them all in together, I want to show you a shortcut for doing that. Let's look at our first label, and this label, to make up our digit, we need 3 horizontal bars. So let's start by formatting this bar to be a horizontal bar, and what I'll do first is I need to turn auto size off, and you can see that I've now got a label that is, let's say, something like that would be okay. Now I want to change the background color of the label because it needs to be different from the background of the form so that I can see it, and I'm going to make its back color dark green. So if I go to web colors and I scroll down here, I'll get, of course you can use any color that you like. Oops, gone too far. Where the green's gone. There we go. Dark green. That'll be fine. Now I don't want any text on the label, so I'll just remove the text. And what I then have is just a green bar. Now I want 3 of those, so let's just copy and paste, and they're going to be something like that on the form. Now I need 4 vertical bars, and again, if I just right click and copy and then paste that label, I've got the right color, but now I need to change its shape. So I can do it by doing something like that. Let's see how that fits up there. It's a little bit tall. Let's move that one down. Now, when you're moving labels around, if you highlight them, you can use then the arrow keys just to nudge them closer to where you want them. That'll look pretty good, near enough. I might just drop that one down a bit with the down arrow. That'll be okay. So now I need to copy and paste, paste, paste. So I've got all my labels. So I'll move this one across. Again, use the arrow keys just to drive that in there. And that looks like it has to come down a bit. And that'll be over there. This one will be here. And then we'll just move that up to the bottom. That looks pretty good for our LCD digit. But I do now need to make sure that I give them meaningful names, because if I don't, in the code I'm not going to know which label I'm changing the color of, because I need to turn these on by changing their color to bright green when a particular button is pressed. So let's start at the top, and this will be LBL top. Move to the middle label, LBL middle, and the bottom will be LBL bottom. That's okay. Then we're going to go label, this will be the top left, so LBL top left, and this will be LBL top right. This one will be LBL bottom left, and this will be LBL bottom right. So that means that I've named all of the labels so that I can refer to those individually. Now I need to put my buttons on, so let's just drag one button across. We want these to be just little squares. Now you can make them square by, just do it by eye, or if you wish to, make sure your button's selected. Have a look down to the size of the button, and I've got that to 30/30. That means it's square, and you can see there that it's got a width and a height. So 30/30 will be fine. Just before I go on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this button 1, and I'm going to change the text on the button because I just want the number 1 on the button. And our text align, it is middle center, that'll be the default for buttons, but I think I'll bump up the size of the font just to make it, let's say make it bold and a bit bigger. Perhaps 12 would be okay. Yep, that looks alright. So let's copy now, because we're going to need 10 buttons to get the digits from 1 or from 0 through to 9. So we can copy and paste and paste and paste and paste and paste. Let's move that one across a little. Copy and paste and paste and paste and paste. And I do need one more button, which is our quit button, so I'll just drag that across there, and that will be, you see I've got button 10 selected here, so this will be BTN quit. The text on the button will be quit. You can see that. And then if you remember back to our previous question, let's before we do that, let's get the start changing the names and the text of these buttons. So we just start at button number 2, select that, this will be BTN 2, and the text on the button will be 2, not 3 but 2. We'll go to button 3, the text will be 3, and that will be BTN 3, and I'll pause this while I continue through and do the other buttons. There's no point you watching that, you can do it yourself, and I'll be back as soon as that's completed. Okay, back again. All of the buttons have been labelled and given their names. For example, button 7 Now, one thing I've forgotten to do is put, for one, change the text on the form, and also to put the label in, which was the heading. Now, I just want to show you how you might, if you have to move multiple controls at the same time, how you might do that. And that is just to click and drag, draw a rectangle around the controls, and you'll see that they're now all selected, and I can move those as in one group. So I'll just drag those down here about there, I think, because click out of that to deselect, because I wanted to put that label up the top here, which was going to say, and this will be LBL title. I need to turn its auto size off, and I need to go down and change the text to LCD demo. I want to align middle center, and I want to change the font to something Arial, I think. Arial, bold, size 14, 18, the book says, so I'll go with that. Okay, you can see that it's not big enough, so I can just resize that. That fits up there nicely, and I think that the book would also have me make the foreground color blue, the foreground color being the color of the text. So let me change that. I'll just select a blue, a nice bright blue color there. Don't forget that we want to change the text on the form, so let's go down to its text property, and this will be LCD demo. Okay, and then one more thing, the book tells us that it wants a border on each of our labels, so let's select all of the labels, and you'll see I didn't want the demo with me, so I'll just select a little bit lower there to see if I can get just labels. There we go. And you can actually see here that a number of the properties have been available to us, so we can actually change all of the properties of, we can change multiple controls at the same time. So if we want to look at the border style, we can change that to fixed single, which is what the book does. So if we wanted, for some reason, to change the color of all of these labels, you could do that by selecting them all and just changing the color. So, but we'll leave them as dark green because that's what the program was asking for. The next thing we need to do now is actually write the code for the program. Now, you know that you can either click on a control to bring up the code window, but you can also, if you use the view command, look at the code window or hit F7. So code F7 to go to designer, which is what we can see here. This is designer view, is shift F7. So let's select code, and you'll see that it opens up an empty code window. We haven't clicked on any controls to create any subroutines, and we could either go to our drop downs and say, okay, I'm going to start with button 1, and we want button 1 click. So now I've got my button 1 click code there. That's one way of doing it, and an alternative would be to go to the design view and then double click on a button. Now, because I've already got button 1 subroutine skeleton already there, I'll do number 2, double click, and you can see now I've got button 2 click. And again, this is just the name of the subroutine. What it actually responds to is what it handles. So we've got handling button 1 click or handling button 2 click. Alright, let's start with button 1, and when we click on button 1, what we want to do is change the colour of our 2 labels, this one and this one, to show a digit 1. So we've given these names, so let's go to our code window, and the first change here is label top right, its back color is going to equal, and you'll see that Visual Basic will come up with some autocomplete options here. We have to work with a color and then the name of the color, so that will be color dot, and we're using lime as our color, so color lime. That changes the back color. Label bottom right dot back color equals, again, an assignment statement, color lime. So when we click on button 1, it will go to the top right and bottom right labels and change their background color properties to a lime green, and we can see how that goes here. Click on button 1, and we've got our lime green to represent the digit 1. Okay, just realized I haven't put the end on the quit button, so sorry, haven't put the end on the quit button, so I'll double click there to open up our button 1 click and just put end in there. Alright, now button 2 deals with a few different labels. Again, we want this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one to be lime green. So let's go across and start. So it'll be label top, not label title, but label top. Back color is going to be color lime, and it will be labeled top right dot back color equals color dot lime, and it will be labeled middle dot back color equals color dot lime, and it will be labeled bottom left dot back color will be color lime, and what have I done here? Label bottom left spelled it wrong. You'll see that if you do anything wrong, Visual Basic's going to help you out. It says back all color is not a member, so we'll better change that typo there. Back color, it's better, and label bottom dot back color equals color dot line. So that will done it again. That will fix our show us the number 2 digit, because it's the top right, middle, bottom left, and bottom, and we can run that and show that that's actually the case. Click on button 2. So we've got our 2. Now, there's one problem here, and that is that when we click on a button, there's nothing in our code that turns off any of the labels that might have been highlighted the previous time. So when we click on button 1, if nothing has been clicked before, that's fine. It will light up those 2 labels. But when we click for button 2, we need to turn off anything that shouldn't be there, and which means in this case we need to turn off this label, But because we don't know if that one was turned on either, we need to turn that off. And in fact, at any time we click on a button, to be sure that we're only lighting up the labels that we need to light up, we need to turn off, by making dark green, all of the other labels. So the labels that we want to show, we have to set to lime. The labels that we're not going to be showing, we have to make sure that we change those back to dark green, because we don't know what color they were the previous time. So let's do that for our first, well, let's just take it for these two. When we click on button 2, let's go to the form. When we click on button 2, we want that label, that label, that label, that label, and that label to turn on. But whenever we turn on click on button 2, we need to make sure the top left and the bottom right are dark green. So let's go to label top left, back color is color dark green, and label bottom right dot back color equals color dot dark green. So that will turn off the two that may have been turned on the previous time. It also means when we click on our 1 that we have to make sure that every other control, every other label is also changed to dark green. So let's go through quickly and type those in, and I'll just pause this to do that. Okay, back again. Now you'll see that I haven't clicked anything on my program, but I've added in for button 1. I've got my 2 labels that I do need to light up, but then I'm turning off everything else. And on my label 2, I'm turning on everything that I need to light up, but I'm turning off the other 2. So if we go back to the application, click on number 1, we can see that 1 lights up. When we click on number 2 lights up, but we just make sure that this and this label are turned off, and then we can toggle backwards and forwards with 1 and 2. Okay, so I'll leave you to do that to all of your other procedures for each button click, and I'll just come back and show you the completed program. Quickest way to do this though is probably to go to button 3, button 3 click, and you'll see that what's happening here is nothing, and that's because I've still got the program running, so I need to stop that. And now I can go up to button 3, button 3 click, and you can see I've got the shell of the program, of the subroutine. Fastest way to do this is to just copy and paste. So I've got all of my controls here, then I just need to work through and decide which ones I need to turn off or on. As I said, I'll complete this and then come back and show you the final program. Okay, back again. All the code's been put into the buttons, so button 1, button 2, and so on, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So when we run our program now, you'll see that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0, all showing correctly there. Quit the program, and that's the end of it. Okay, don't forget, save all to save your project, and then you can exit. And that's all for program number 2, LCD demo.